Hello guys, what's poppin'? It's me, your boy Christy2708 here, coming back with another review. This is the secondary keyboard that I've ever owned so far, and this is also the second longest keyboard that I've held on for so much, and that is because, well, it was my secondary keyboard, and I would not have changed it unless I wouldn't have spilled juice all over it, which then prompted it not working properly anymore, and it got me to where I am. However, I am also thankful because thanks to that, I managed to lay my hands on some very interesting keyboards other than, well, the standard Cherry MX based ones. So, alright, now I'm going to go into the features that it has, the software, which is very bloaty and very over the top in my opinion, and I'll also go over the switches, and I'll also show some OS gameplay, but that one is I'm going to have to pull some footage from 2018 because, well, it is quite in a deteriorated state. I mean, it is usable, but the sound that it produces, hear that is not normal for the type of switches that it has in it. Them being silent switches, these do not sound at all silent anymore because of the damage of the juice and, well, how bad it got. Okay, so talking about features, well, it's a fairly simple keyboard. It's not too gamery, it's not too outlandish. I mean, it kind of is gamery, especially with the accents on the sides, which, by the way, do wear and tear. Look at it. That's scratches on the white thingy. That's a paint job, and it got scratched and it looks like hell. So yeah, that's kind of gamerish look if you want to call it that. But I don't know. It's a different approach to a layout, and I can understand that. At the top we have the lock functions, the num lock, caps lock, and scroll lock, indicator LEDs. This is for 3 brightness levels, this is for 3 brightness levels. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, a dedicated Windows lock key. Most keyboards nowadays use just FN plus Windows button or something like that to lock the keyboard. At the top we have the volume controls, the media, and that's about it for the FN functionality of it. At least that's about how much I'm aware of. Oh, and by the way, the keyboard model that I'm reviewing is the Strafe RGB with the Cherry MX silent. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video, my bad. Okay, so that being said, the switches themselves used to be quite silent. I don't know if you can hear it, but they don't produce as much noise. These were more worn out because I've used them for a long time. And the way that the silencing mechanism works is that they introduce a rubber at the very end of the Cherry MX stem, which then dampens the sound of the clack. Since they are linear, they don't produce sound while being pressed, unlike the clicky ones, which is why I even got this one to begin with, because I got complaints that the MX Blues are too loud. So I switched to Cherry MX Silent, and, well, indeed, they do their job very well. They are very silent, however, they're not completely silent, because, well, you still need to have a clack if you are going to actually mash the key, so there is still sound being produced, but it's much more dampened, and that's also part of the reason why the Cherry MX Silent ones, these are linears, they are silent reds. There is also a much heavier variant called silent blacks, and these feel mushier exactly because they're of that rubber dampener at the very bottom of the key switch. So it's going to feel a lot mushier than actual reds. Okay, that being said, I will also go over the software itself because it is quite a headache and it takes up a lot of space for no good reason. It is one of the more bloatier softwares that I've ever seen. It's the IQ thingy, and I'll go over that one next since it really needs some coverage. It has some very versatile functionality, but it does come at the cost of performance, like actual PC performance. Alright, and as you can see, I have gone and downloaded the software that it supports. It is called the IQ. It is Corsair's proprietary software. So if you do have other components or PC parts that use or benefit from IQ, most of them will show up over here, like potential RAM, potential power supply, keyboards, mice, headsets. I think they even have a microphone and a RGB chair. If you connect them to the power system and to the PC, you might control it from here, though I'm not very sure how that one works. And it's basically their proprietary service. However, it is quite bloated. I don't have a exact screenshot, but like the installation setup required me to have 1.5 gigabytes of storage available to actually download and to install. Oh, it even has an update. Cool. I'm not gonna bother, but I'm going to install it anyway. But I'm going to uninstall it either way after this review because it hogs so much of, well, CPU power. Like, okay, you're going to install now. What are you going to do? Come on, make up your mind. Okay, cool. What are you going to do? Did you install? Whatever, it doesn't work properly. Here you can, and I'm going to show. Okay, so I'm going to show you the. Never mind. I'm not going to show you anything. Apparently, it's going to install it either way. I don't know if you can see this. Hang on. Yeah, okay. Maybe now I can show you how much it actually uses. I hope it doesn't make me restart the PC because that would be fucking awful. Come on, you useless piece of junk. Okay. You finished yet? You done? Are you good? Okay. Apparently that was a necessary installation. Well, okay. So once again, we have the settings tab, home, dashboard, instant lighting. I'm gonna start with the settings tab because this is where you adjust the polling rate, which is very important, especially for rhythm games. This is where you set your polling rate to 1000 hertz. I think the K100, the one with the optical switches, also has a new feature that allows you to set like 4000 hertz polling rate, which is like over the top and mostly, I would say, I don't know, maybe not even needed in most of the cases. 1000 hertz is very fine. You can even adjust the brightness, but it's again in 3 levels. The other keyboards have a more pronounced lighting adjustment tab. I don't know if you can see. This one is the Apex Pro, and this one lets me toggle the lighting for I think for 10 stages, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 levels of brightness. Wait, I think the camera is not focusing. Okay, once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And this is the max brightness it goes to. This one has just 3. It's whatever. You can also adjust general settings, start on system startup, SDK, connected devices, plugins, debug, logs for crashing. This is the overlay, I think, on-screen display. It works basically like any software which allows you to monitor frame rates, CPU usage, etc. Dashboard, I think, is used for I think it's used for something else. I'm not really sure what this does. And sensor logging, well, this is used for temperatures, and if you want to display them as like you want to use the lighting to display them, so you can go ahead and do that over here. Okay, now back to home, you can see your devices here. I'm gonna click on mine, and it takes you to the device that you have connected. You can assign actions, which is like basically creating macros or different different functionalities. It is quite a complex software, which actually I think it's the most complex so far, which might also be the reason why it takes up so much memory space. Like here, let me show you. I think it uses, well, now it just uses 0.5%, but it still hogs like quite a lot of CPU power, or it used to hog quite a lot of power. If I had this open, the recording program that I use would have problems because it would fight over the actual IQ software on what takes priority, which is quite bad. Lighting effects, this one is the one that I like the most. Like, I really like the options that they give you here. The execution on the keyboard is a bit I don't know how to explain this. It's a bit sluggish. Like, you can see as if it was moving in like 30 FPS IRL. It's nice. The lighting, it looks nice, but I mean, if you can see it, that it's basically changing colors like at like 30 FPS instead of, well, real time, and it's not as smooth as the other ones, well, it's going to look quite horrible. In my opinion, the Apex Pro got the lighting best. I mean, despite the fact that this has a white background so that the light refracts more and it looks more vivid, somehow the Apex Pro still manages to outbeat the Corsair in the lighting department, at least in my opinion. But it does have quite a few options for lighting. Like color shift is the well, it just shifts colors basically, and you can adjust the speed, I think, in the levels of 3, yeah, from medium to fast to slow, start with profile, stop never, when you want this to play, color pulse, this is basically pulse, but like it changes color every single time it pulses. Color wave is basically like a visor of sorts, but it's just like it sends out a wave of a certain color once at every few seconds, depending on how fast you want it to be. The visor should be pretty obvious what this is. I mean, it's just a visor. I think everyone knows what a visor is, and it's basically changing colors when it goes from one side to the other. Rain is the one that I wish more keyboards would have. I think that neither the Huntsman nor the Apex Pro have had this option, which is quite sad because I like this one quite a lot. Maybe through SDK, but I know that you cannot make it on the standalone software. Like, it's not already there for you to pre-select. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer, but I think that you can do it if you tinker with it long enough, but I can't be fucked to do that. So yeah, type lighting is basically like it's sending out ripples, or if you want just individual keys, well, it just lights up the individual keys. I personally like this one because I don't know, this is not a functionality that other keyboards have. The other keyboards do not have random colors like rainbow effect to ripple whenever you type something. It's always locked to a certain color. Like, you have to pick the color, and that color will be the only color that it will ripple in. For example, the Apex Pro only allows me to ripple in purple. If I set it to purple, there is no way to actually make it just ripple in or a reactive layer in random colors, which is kind of a bummer. But I think that this is more of a limitation of the software. So, hey man, you gotta take your wins with your losses, I suppose. And then we'll void visualizer. This is basically if you have their headset, which also have RGB, it's basically acts like a audio visualizer, which is something that you have to get here for yourself individually. And watercolor, I think it's it's an interesting. I think this is a new effect added with the K100, which is basically what it assigns to as a default lighting effect when you plug it in. But it's a decent, nice addition, I suppose. But I like the old-fashioned rainbow wave, full-on projectile vomit puke. I know that's basically yeah. I'm not gonna go further in. And this is the performance tab where you can see where you can choose what the different things do. Like if Windows lock is on, you can disable Alt Tab, Alt F4, Shift Tab, and stuff like that. This is more for maybe production or maybe intensive game sessions where you don't want to Alt Tab or you want to focus in, or you don't want to get trolled into if somehow triggering Alt F4 for some reason, or you want to throw with your colleagues and want to lock them in a single game or a program, and you take this on, I suppose. But then I wouldn't really understand in what way you would want to actually to actually use these. They're neat, but I don't see their point. Oh, and if you want to assign different things, you can do. Oh, this is the dashboard. Okay, I never actually used this feature. It basically shows you what kind of settings you have saved, or the macros, I suppose, but I've never actually gotten to record the macro because the macro functionality on this one is quite tricky. It's not the simplest one out of the bunch, honestly, and you would need quite some time to tinker with it to understand how a macro works if you even want to do something like assign a macro. Like I don't even see the point of a macro, honestly, other than maybe opening a program, maybe I don't know. Suppose maybe for Photoshop, maybe for some production level things you might want a macro. But honestly, I don't use macros that often. I use them more on the mouse, which is why I got a Naga. So yeah, but it's cool that they do give you the option to do so. Now for instant lighting, I think it does what it basically says. It just adjusts the instant lighting. If you want any specific colors of the bunch, you just click on it and it just gives it the color. Like it's as simple as it gets. Or if you don't want to do so, you can disable it and bam, you're back to the rainbow puke that you were used to before. So yeah, that's about it for the software, I suppose. It's quite straightforward, but the things that are very hard and tricky to do is the macro recording. This one is quite versatile, and I think you need to, yeah, it's kinda tricky to understand what's going on over here. Like you can edit, you can paste, you can undo and add delays, delete, and when you got advanced settings, action on repeat. I think this is something that execute uninterrupted, excuse me, like action trigger on the release, action repeat, second action, retain original key input, start settings. It's quite like it's quite the versatile sort, and you can just press on the button and it's going to assign a macro to it. And you can like also record mouse movement, which is like what mouse wheel scroll and mouse clicks, which I get it, I get what it wants to do, but I don't see the point, honestly, unless you, I don't know, maybe you want to cheat in an exam at college and you take your keyboard with it and somehow it has onboard memory and you press one button and then boom, it does recorded stuff. And I don't know, honestly, I have really no idea who could use something like this. It's even bulky, so like you can't even take it with you. That being said, I'm gonna move on to the Switch review, and I'll also do some. No, I won't be playing with it because it's kind of it's kind of not working properly. I'm just going to search for. I'm just going to search for a old video of mine and maybe cut some gameplay from there and paste it into the video and render it as is, because I cannot really use it like this. I'll do a final typing demonstration, but it's really not what it is. Like I'm going to stretch to see if I cannot implement the typing video somehow into the composition, but that's something that I'm going to talk more at the end of the video. Now let's move on to the more important stuff, the Cherry MX Silent key switch review. Now, as I mentioned before, this keyboard in particular uses the Cherry MX Silent switch, which I got because, well, people were complaining that I was being too loud with my keyboard, so I went and did something in that direction to leverage some of the comfort of my people that were around me. So I got the Cherry MX Silent switch. I would like to pull this keycap so I can show you. It is housed in a clear housing. It's quite dirty. Yeah, it's quite. This is from the. This is still from the spilled juice accident, so I am very much sorry for those of you who are actually disgusted by this. I'm very, very sorry. Do clean your keyboard, guys. I do not have a keycap puller, so there's nothing more I can do other than to, I don't know, maybe try and pull them off. It doesn't want to show the housing. I wanted to show you the housing where it said that it's Cherry, but I'm just showing you the dust particles and, well, no, those are those dust particles, and some of it is, I don't think that that's hair. That's just a, well, might be from the no, not the toothbrush. I don't use toothbrush to clean my keyboards. I used a brush, which had long strains. Oh, whatever. So as you can see, it's a red. It's a linear one. And, well, here's the thing about the Cherry MX based switches. I used to like them. I would say that they are average. Like, someone who can afford one of these, maybe try them out, see whichever type they like. But nowadays I'm very much against the Cherry MX switch design, because they're just bland, man. Like, they're bland and they're also scratchy. Like, the scratchiness comes from the fact that they are contact based. So they use a metal contact inside the switch to actuate the key itself. So basically it hits a metal thing, and that metal thing sends a signal to the PC to recognize that it has been registered as a keystroke, and that's how metal contact based switches work. And, well, as you can already tell, if you're not a, well, maybe you're not a physicist to know this, but anything that hits something metal, like metal on metal, it grinds and it causes friction, which then in return feels as a sort of a scratchy feeling. It's really not noticeable until you get something that is contactless, like a optical switch, like the Apex Pro one has. Like, it uses contactless switches, so they do not feel scratchy at all, at least not on the contact itself. So, in my opinion, at least the Cherry MX Silent Reds are not so much of a type of switch, although they are very much like a red. They are linear, they're sort of fast. They are quite a bit faster, I think, than the usual Cherry MX Reds, because they are actuated like 1.9 or 1.8 millimeters instead of 2, and the total travel distance is like 3.8, so there is that. But it's not really that much of an improvement over over Cherry MX Reds, at least not in my opinion. Maybe on the clack, but in my opinion, it's really not worth it to get one of these keyboards. Like, do not try to get a, I don't know, like a Corsair or a HyperX Alloy Core Origins or whatever bullshit it is now trending on for also. I really do not recommend them because they're just overpriced in my opinion for what they are doing, and there are much better options for that same price. And you should really go for something like a contactless if you want to grab something like a linear switch. They feel much nicer. They actuate much they actuate quite faster, I think, and they are also more durable. Like, they have over 100 million keystroke support, so maybe try to get one of these. And that's about it for the key switch review. This one is a golden map, dude. This is like from the Pukezi era. What the heck, dude? What the fuck? The bottom of the signal type, dude. Oh my god, dude, I nearly fucking died. Literally and figuratively. Look at that act and look at that input delay. Holy. Let it calm down a bit. It's all red. Have but not just yet. Okay, third time is the charm. Told ya. Okay. Hard part. What the hell is that act? It's so bad. Overstream. Nah, damn it. This is the final part of the video where I'm going to go over the 3 other keyboards that I have, and I'm going to do a typing demonstration. I don't have the Red Dragon Vara this time around, so I won't be doing that one. So I mean, it's not that I don't have it, but like somebody else already uses it. So okay, here goes. This is the Huntsman TKO. Okay, moving on is the Corsair Strafe RGB with this Cherry MX Rant. And this is the Apex Pro. Okay, and that's about it for the typing demonstration. I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya. Oh, and I forgot one more thing. This also comes with a quite handy race rest. I don't know if you can see it. It's quite a rubberized material, but it's not something that I would prefer to use, especially because this other keyboard has a much better wrist rest, which is also magnetic in my opinion. This one is latches on, and well, that's well, I mean, some people will like it, but in my opinion it's more fragile, since the thing is using clips to attach itself to the back of the keyboard, so you need to keep that one in mind. However, again, I do not recommend this one nor the other Cherry MX based switches, but that is something that you have to decide for yourself, as this is my opinion and this is my very potentially biased opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. But I have said what I had to say about the Cherry MX switch. I believe they are inferior to, well, obviously superior contactless key switches. At least that's the point that I'm trying to make. If you can get a hold of a bloody and or I don't know, like something that is more affordable, bloodies are the more affordable ones, but even a Huntsman TKL or I'm gonna be honest, the Apex Pro is not really an affordable keyboard for most people, at least living in this country. That is, it is a very nice keyboard. I'm not gonna lie, the functionality of it is quite versatile. One of the most versatile keyboards that exists out there, but it is very fucking expensive. 230 euros without shipping and import fees. Like, that is a heavy tax to pay for such a keyboard. But on the contrary, it does have its bonuses, and quite strongly and very much so. It is one of the main reasons why I daily drive this one together with the Apex or with the Huntsman TKO. There are very good reasons why I stuck with these and haven't gone with any other Cherry MX based switch. Honestly, if someone buys such an expensive keyboard and does not go for an optical keyboard, either doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's a stuck up little whiny bitch who doesn't know anything about actual key feel and, well, the overall sturdiness and vast superiorness of optical switches. And they should refrain from actually suggesting people any solutions or options. This is my very honest opinion about the Cherry MX based switches. I used to like them, they are okay, but if compared to optical switches, they are fucking trash, man. I swear, literally, bargain bin level of not good, because they are so inferior to what is objectively superior. Of course, the feel of the key feel and the key sound of the keyboard is also a decisive factor, and there are going to be people who are stuck up and will always say, "Oh no, I do not like opticals because that's because they feel too light for me, man." Like, okay, I get it, but that's not such a valid point to make, especially in a game like also where smoothness has quite a decisive saying in this department, at least. So it is very uncalled for and very unjustified to actually suggest people to get something like a. I see this a lot, and it really triggers all of my hate and anger towards the community, because such a shit and like uninspired piece of garbage gets suggested as the new up and coming top player favorite keyboard that they want to stretch out and tear my hair out of my fucking head. And I'm talking about the HyperX Alloy Core Origins, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Okay, if you are talking about the FPS, that is a quite a decent keyboard, exactly because it has, oh motherfucker, exactly because it has a low price point. At least in Romania right now, I think it is sold for like 250 RON, which is for a Cherry MX standard keyboard is pretty good, especially since it's from a more major company. But only and only the FPS. That is it. Anything else is either too expensive, overpriced, and not worth the fucking price, man. I swear. If anyone else is going to recommend that piece of garbage anymore, and it's going to be bought up just because, oh my god, it's the new Osu keyboard 2.0, just like the Cooler Master. I don't even know what the name of it was. I think it was Cooler Master Keys something Pro, maybe. It's, well, at least, at the very least, back then, optical switches were not a thing. These did not exist back in 2015, 2016. So at least it's understandable. But now that we're in 2020 and optical switches exist, and people still go out and buy something that is like very much inferior in any way, scratchy overall feeling of the Cherry MX, more so than the actual durability. Because okay, let's say that maybe you're lucky and you can have that keyboard and go to the end of the world with it and die and have the keyboard not die on you in the meantime. Like, okay, that is very possible, but at least the feeling of the keyboard is not so goddamn awful. And I'm not really talking about the keyboard itself as much as the key switches that are inside of it. Oh my god, it's the new HyperX whack job MX type based switch. It's a contact based switch, for God's sake. They do not feel that different from one each other. They are literally using almost the identical parts in them. Maybe not so for the tactile ones, but the linear ones. Why would you go for the linear ones if you have much better options? It is very maddening, it's depressing, and it's sickening to see the community suggest such a uninspired hot mess to the other players. Like, no, I'm not going to recommend the SteelSeries Apex Pro because it is very much expensive, and it has its own merits. I'm not going to recommend it because, while I do enjoy using it, I wouldn't say that it is worth for someone like who plays also most of the time and does nothing else to go ahead and buy this. Maybe for the novelty of the actual key switch and the fact that it has adjustable actuation points. Maybe for that, but I won't recommend it. However, what I am going to recommend every single goddamn time I have the opportunity is optical switches. For fuck's sake, this is the future. This is the future, Cherry, and Cherry should listen, because they are going to get to lose market share if they do not innovate something that is very much like this, like the up and coming linears that are coming out right now. Like, Corsair has developed their own optical switch. SteelSeries has their top of the line optical switch, which is like one of the very best at the current time. And Huntsman, the one that Razer has perfected with the red one, is also quite fucking good. 40 grams of force, 1mm actuation point. It is so much better than any of the other offerings that Cherry has on the market, and they are going to lose market share. And I hope that that's the future that we are going into, because they need to get shaken up to diversify their freaking outdated switch design. It's outdated, it's not in anymore, and not even the whack jobs of Zelios or Holy Pandas or whatever the fuck is going on right now with the key switches. They cannot even match the smoothness and the durability of the optical switches. Maybe their housing isn't the greatest. Maybe they are somewhat more breakable on other structural points, but at least they do not feel like you are typing on sandpaper. That's my conclusion for this keyboard review. It is very much a rant a conclusion. If you need something like a Cherry MX Silent, which some offices honestly do, I would maybe recommend going for a Cherry MX Silent. But that is the only Cherry switch that I'm going to recommend at all. The browns feel like a more scratchy red, at least from what I have tried out. The oranges from Razer, they work somehow. They can be better. They are definitely more better than Cherry MX Browns and any other Gateron whatever bullshit brown that exists on the market. And even Holy Pandas are very questionable. Still very scratchy in my opinion. I would recommend going with, I don't know, Hermes P2 Browns or whatever is in for like a tactile optical switch. Other than that, I wouldn't recommend any of the other options. This is the only thing that I can recommend from Cherry that is going to have a practical use, because offices do need more silent keyboards, and this is as silent as it gets. Honestly, this is for a linear switch, this is as silent as it gets, and this is something that people should consider if sound is a problem to them. Like the sound of clack is too distracting, or it disturbs the workplace environment, then get something like a Cherry MX Silent. Other than that, I cannot recommend any of the other Cherry MX switches, and or any of the other Cherry MX variants. And by that I mean Otemu, Gateron, Holy Pandas, Zelios. I don't even know what else is in right now. These are not very nice to the touch, or they are not very useful unless maybe if you are typing. If you are just for professional use, maybe then I can see some benefits for that. But this is a review with having in mind OSU. So sticking to the OSU category, I do not recommend this neither keyboard nor switch for OSU, because honestly there are much better variants. There are much better variants that are on the market, and you should be looking forward to those. You should very much be looking forward to those. That being said, I'm going to conclude the review here. I'm gonna leave it at that. You may take what you want from it. It was my honest review of this one. And the next three that I'm going to review are also quite interesting, and you will see why. Especially the last two. Those are going to be quite tasty videos, if I may say so myself. Alright, that is it. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll catch you in the next.